Well, welcome here to the Accident Investigator, and today I'm going to have a look at a Convair, and that was an accident that happened at the Wonderboom airport. Now, let's dive right into this one, but just before that, just a little bit about seams, the product that you should be aware of this stage of the game. You can do online dangerous goods. You can learn how to patter online, safety management, and mountain flying, aircraft accident investigation, and so on and so forth. What we're having a look at today is a Convair. Now, the left engine actually caught alight. Now, the engine problems actually started during the ground run or the takeoff run, and there was already then a drop in manifold pressure. Now, there's a long history. The aircraft was on the ground for 5 months and it was going to travel to the Netherlands. And I'm not going into the ground side of things, but from a pilot's point of view, is once you're airborne and you've got a problem, what do you do then? Or do you give up, or do you let it everything over to fate? In this case, the flight history, the aircraft prepared for a ferry to Netherlands, that we know. Now, this is a little bit of a contentious part here, where there were 17 passengers on board and 2 crew. Now, that was skewed slightly because it was actually 3 crew, because it is only a 2 crew aircraft, but they used an engineer as the 3rd crew in the center in the front. And that means, in all reality, there were only, let's call it 16 passengers and 3 crew. But it cannot be like that in the annals because, I mean, it is a 2 crew aircraft. Anyway, that was just a little bit behind it. During takeoff, the manifold pressure was low. Now, what happened is that the passengers could see, and when they were looking outside the left window, they could see that the engine was smoking and there was fire started coming out, and we'll see the video just now. So not long after they were airborne, one of the passengers actually went to the front and said, "Hey guys, the left engine is on fire." Now, the reason I'm saying that is just remember, the crew, it's not in a state now that they didn't know. Okay. ATC didn't say to them that they're on fire. I don't think there was any external, but they themselves realized then that they were on fire and they declared a mayday. But then the amazing thing is that they left the left engine just as it is, never went through the procedure, never tried to shut it down, to get rid of the fire, to feather the engine or anything like that. And eventually, it became so hot that the aileron control cables started to stretch and they lost, let's say, effective control in the lateral sense as well. And, okay, just before going in, I'm sure that they became, or they went below VMCA, and once you're there, there's no more rudder. In fact, the captain asked the co-pilot to help him push in the rudder. But with this drag on the left engine, which was never taken away, it wasn't going to help anyway. Nothing was going to happen there. Now, just before I go into the accident causation, there's a lot that happened on the ground. Now, I need to just clarify and say, I understand that we're talking about, did everything start on the ground? Granted. What I'm trying to say is that as aircrew, we get in the air, and then whilst we're in the air, something goes wrong. Then we haven't got time to blame whoever's in the past. Is it a problem that we can fix? Can we walk away from this problem? And in this case, this particular situation, I certainly believe that it was the kind of anomaly that one could walk away from. Now, the sequence of events started during the servicing, and I said that, okay, once the engine was on fire, the left engine and prop became the drag factor. So now you're sitting with this massive drag factor. Now remember, the aircraft wants to yaw to the left. You've got right hand rudder in as much as you can, and eventually the co-pilot is helping. But if you do not take the drag, or let's say if you don't change the drag differences, because remember, the left engine has got a lot of drag, it wants to go back, and the right one has got full thrust and it goes forward. So the yaw is all the time to the left. You've got to do something about that. And the ABC after you've got an engine failure in a multi-engine aircraft, well, that's the basics. Anyway, but there was no procedure followed, no crew management occurred after the engine was on fire. No crew management. In other words, it was now, nobody was in charge, but nobody was also not in charge. Nobody was getting anything to say that you must do this, and that led obviously to a serious problem. Well, the crew definitely was not recent. In other words, they haven't flown the aircraft in quite a while, and they were not capable in handling the situation. I say that the crew became passengers in the unfolding accident that had to follow. Those are harsh words, but this is the harsh reality. It doesn't help you sitting in the front and you sit in the seat and you do not know what to do in that seat. You do not know that if the fire comes, then we start off with a little rhyme. What is it that you're going to do? Throttle up, clean up, identify, verify, fix, or further. Now, if there's fire involved, then obviously decide that there's fire. That's the one that you've got to get off. Why is that left engine on fire? Well, we certainly do not know, but the fire might not be there if the engine is physically not working or trying to work. All right, that's enough said about that. So let's have a look at the video. Right, and here we have a Convair, and that was the 340, and taking off from Wonderboom, and as you can see, the left-hand engine, or the number 1 engine, is definitely on fire with all the smoke coming out.
It's getting worse, huh? You better hit it for the runway. Huh? You better hit it for the runway quicker than he's trying to. Because it's getting bad. It's getting worse? This is getting very bad. Yeah, low battery. Can you? Heb je dat cut? We moeten de engine cut. Zoals je dan kan maken.
Well, this is the aircraft seen from another aircraft flying above it, and you can clearly see the smoke trail that it's leaving. Well, only one death in this accident, but there you can see the plume as it arose from the accident site. Well, welcome back here to the presentation as you're carrying on, and if you can see the aftermath of this, what we've seen here, just to show the pictures here, I'll just get myself out of the way. Here was the initial culprit. You can see here that the rings are already done and it started burning, and you can see the hot parts here, and on the back side of that is where the cabling was. Here you can see a serious impact with the ground, and here you can see it just went straight through the center of this building. There were people inside, and this is just what the cockpit looked like. Now, as in any of the presentations that we talk about, it doesn't go about, well, it does go about who lost their lives. Yeah, I understand that. But for us is, what will we learn? How will we go forward? What can we learn? What must we take away? So let's see what we can take away, even if it's hard. One must not just know about procedures, I say, but be able or capable to apply such knowledge when required. You can read all the books in your life and you can have all the theoretical knowledge, but if you haven't got the practical ability to apply the knowledge when under stressful conditions, and that's recency. It's be able to do something when the chips are down. All right, the most basic of the multi-engine emergencies, well, that wasn't even followed. From a psychological point of view, it is like the moment that they realized there was fire, it's this, the first psychological reaction is of, well, it can't really be. And then you feel sorry for yourself and all that kind of stuff. But there's no time, because if you don't take that engine, that left engine, and had they taken the left engine offline and they feathered the prop so that there's less resistance, this aircraft flies beautifully on one engine and it was quite capable of doing so. But you can't fight the machine when you do not follow the right steps. There is simply just not enough travel in the rudder to be able to combat a full throttle on the right-hand side and a massive drag implication on the left-hand side. It's not possible. Okay, now not how many crews you have. Look at this here. No matter how many crew you have, they are not capable. They fall into the category of passengers, no matter the seat they occupy. This, to me, is one of those real things. Do not fill a seat up because you need to fill the seat up. Yeah, what is my best buddy? All right, your best buddy is going to die with you. But if it's the most capable person that you can find, you both can actually walk away and you can still be friends with your buddy. Anyway, never mind. Okay, never take passengers on a test flight. It's now an argument. Was it a test flight? Was it not a test flight? Because according to the books, you know, we're going to argue this until the nth degree. But at the end of the day, the aircraft had been flown for 5 months. There was various times that things were wrong. And this was the first flight. I would have taken, or I do take it for granted, in fact, the way that I was taught at least, is that, you know, it's just you. So I expected to only have 3 people on board, the pilot and the co-pilot, and then the engineer that worked on the engine so that they can see, or he can see, that. And it would have been 3 people, maximum, maybe even if you want to take another engineer, but I wouldn't have. There would have been 3 people on board. By the way, all of us has gone through this. Just the time when you think it's okay, it's not okay. Unfortunately, that's the time when it counts. Never turn a 2-man crew into a 3-man crew, and this is what wanted to happen here. Emergencies during takeoff must be well known, well capable to handle, resource management. And, you know, here I say a lot about the resource management and what we must do. Before we take off, there must be a full briefing. I'm going to do this, you're going to do this. When this happened, there. And it's a talk through, it's a touch, and it's a feel. And it's everything in the short-term memory, and everything is ready to go. And if something goes, we've got to get through that initial shock and not go into a stressful behavior, although we're all stressed when it happens. All right? That's going to be. But to be able to push through that and do the necessary things that needs to be done, but that needs to be fresh in your mind and hopefully fresh in your hands as well. I then say, yeah, just remember that paperwork does not make us capable, only exposure will help when the chips are down. A lot of times when the authorities come and they do the accident investigation, they will say, yeah, but this wasn't done and this wasn't done and this wasn't done. I agree. That's fine. On paper, it was an illegal sortie, granted. That still didn't cause the accident, because paperwork cannot replace capability. You might have all the papers, but not be capable. You might not have the papers and be capable, as well as obviously you cannot have the papers and not be capable. But in this case, if you've got the papers and you're not capable, and you get a non-capable with you, all right, it's a big deal, I think. Technical difficulties, well, they will come to every pilot. But those that can handle it, they survive. That is so important. Remember, a lot of times people say to me, but if it wasn't for the engine cut, this wouldn't happen. I know, but the engine did cut. Did they have to die? No. Could the aircraft have landed safely? Yes. Why? If we followed the right procedure. And that means that this is what we're going to do. Know the procedure, do the procedure. See you in the next round.